All right, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. We have a really amazing panel of speakers today, and I'm really excited to introduce them all. But first, my name is Genevieve Waterman. I am the Director of Corporate Partnerships and Engagement at the National Council on Aging, and so I welcome you all to almost the end of day 2 of our conference. I'm glad you're all decided to be here for the end of the afternoon sessions. First, I'd like to introduce our panelists. So I'll be going down the line. So you have Andrea Gilman at the far right. Andrea is the Chief Marketing Officer at Early Warning, the owners and operators of the Zelle network. With over 2 decades of experience in the payments area, Andrea is a leader in bringing payments innovation to consumers and businesses, with a strong focus in expanding access to tools and education to those who need it most. Before Early Warning, Andrea served as the Chief Marketing Officer at Banyan, and before that, she held a series of leadership positions at MasterCard. Andrea is a graduate of Bowdoin College and has an MBA from NYU's Stern School of Business, and is a proud mom of 2. So welcome, Andrea.
Thank you.
Christine Kiefer is in the middle. Christine is the Senior Director of the FINRA Investor Education Foundation with over 20 years of financial and investor education experience. She manages national, state, and grassroots partnerships and develops tools and programs for law enforcement, victim advocates, and consumers to advance investor protection and fraud prevention initiatives. Her role includes management of research into investor attitudes and behaviors, primarily related to financial fraud. Christine has also oversees the financial readiness programs for military families and other underserved audiences, and participates in implementation of the National Financial Capability Study. She previously supported FINRA's chairman and CEO on 3 terms of the President's Advisory Council on Financial Capability, and has led the production of 2 documentary films. Kristen holds a Bachelor of Science from Vanderbilt University with a double major in economics and mathematics. And last but not least, Abigail Bishop. Abigail, as the head of external relations of scam prevention at Amazon, she leads a team of experts in strategic communications, partnership development, and outreach for the WW Stores division. She has over 10 years of experience in managing operations and global strategy in large public companies, where she has contributed to enhancing customer trust while expanding into new markets. She has a master's from Harvard, a bachelor's from USC, go Trojans, excited to have a fellow Trojan on the panel, and as well as additional coursework at the Wharton Business School and Oxford University. So we have a very well-established and academically achievements in all of our panelists. I'm really excited. So please welcome our panelists. Okay, so first we thought we'd get started with just a little bit of background on scams. I know a lot of you have heard about scams, or well aware that this is becoming a growing problem in the field, but we thought it'd be best just to have a deeper conversation around some of the trends that we're seeing. So the first one I want to point out is that we are using data from the Federal Trade Commission, or known as FTC. And so within the year of 2023, they put out a really great summary that kind of summarizes all of the trends that they're seeing at a high level. A couple that I want to point out from this, and you can see this on this graphic on their website if you have bad eyes like I do. So 2.6 million fraud reports that were reported in 2023 to the FTC. Nearly 10 billion in consumer losses. And most of those were through bank transfers, so about 1.8 million, and cryptocurrency at 1.4 million. So we're seeing a large growing trend, especially year over year. Another interesting tidbit that I think is really important for this conversation is that scams are affecting all age groups. It's not just older adults. Even though we all work with older adults, we're knowing that this is basically affecting every single person in this room, and we need to be more aware of that. But younger adults are being targeted more frequently, whereas older adults are being targeted less, but they're losing more money than their younger cohorts. So that's why it's really important that when we think about scams prevention, we're thinking about the whole family, every single individual in our society, so that we're protecting everyone. And when we look a little bit further into the age groups, it's really important to kind of see the trends when it comes to understanding the number of reports that are being made, also understanding the total loss, and then also looking at the median loss. So if you look at this graph, you'll see that we have these 3 different columns looking at the number of reports, total loss, total money lost, and then median loss. And in that red box, we've highlighted the age groups of 50 to 59, 60 to 69, 70 to 79, and 80 and above. So one alarming trend is really looking at that 50 to 59 and 60 to 69 group, seeing that they're reporting more overall. They're losing more money overall. But if you look at the last column, the median dollars lost, you'll see that those 70 to 79, 80 plus are losing more when it comes to when we look at the median. So that's alarming in the sense that the trend continues where the oldest of the old are still being scammed more, and they're losing more money overall. But the fact that we're seeing more frequency among younger generations and positing kind of the idea of, well, what happens to your retirement security if you're being scammed and losing money in earlier ages? Are you able to recover that money? And then are you able to then use that to build financial security or put that away for long-term savings like retirement? And then the last area that I want to point out from the data is looking at the payment methods and then the top scam subcategories for 2023. So you'll see for the top 3 areas are credit cards, debit cards, and payment app or services. And that is a growing trend that we're seeing over time. And then when we look at the different subcategories, the top 3 areas are online shopping, business imposters, and miscellaneous investments. So I think when we traditionally see it from an aging focus, we always think about investments when it comes to scams. But now that we've all transitioned and we know that our clients have transitioned over to the online world because of COVID, we know that they're more likely to now be a victim of online shopping, scams associated with online shopping, and then also business imposter scams. So it's really important to have these conversations with all of these experts that we're bringing together. But one thing I will say that there is a caveat in some of this data. This data is wonderful and does paint a good picture, but we know that older adults tend to not, or just victims in general, just don't want to report. And that's associated with the stigma of being a victim, having to be re-traumatized by telling your story over and over again to different agencies. Another area is that different agencies have different methods of collecting this information. So all of these databases are silo. We're not really at a point where we're really talking to each other. So that's just something to really think about as we have these conversations of how can we do better? How can we also continue to empower our community? So with that, I will turn it over to our panelists to have the rest of the conversation. And I will take a seat. Give me 1 minute. I didn't realize I walk really loud until now. Okay, so welcome. Thank you again for joining us. But I just want to get your reaction to some of that data. What do you all think? How do you, what are your general reactions to the data? Andrew, would you like to go first?
Sure, I'll kick us off. Thank you. I think as you can see from the information, this is a situation that is evolving rapidly. And as you said, Genevieve, these fraud and scams are affecting all Americans of all ages and all different types of payments and financial transactions. So it really is something that we all need to engage in and discuss together. As we started to dig into the data at early warning and look at what's happening, one of the things that we've seen is that criminals are increasingly leveraging technology such as AI and digital, to perpetrate these fraud and scams. So they are turning actually from crimes they may have committed on the streets to digital methods of committing fraud and scam to Americans. And so that is very, very concerning. At Early Warning and Zelle, we believe that we have a responsibility to care for Americans' financial lives, and we think about that in a few key ways, spanning things like technology, education, and private and public partnerships. And that's why we're so grateful that you're all here today to have this important dialogue with each of us.
Great. Christine?
I'll just add, the numbers are alarming. What you didn't see was the trajectory has been going up and up and up. And I think one of the pieces that we also don't see through those numbers are the individual stories that are behind those numbers. And there's so much underreporting when we acknowledge that. But one of our partners, so the Finner Foundation has a number of partners that work on fraud prevention, but also on victim assistance work. And I was speaking with the Cybercrime Support Network just yesterday, and they run a romance scam recovery group, which I'm happy to talk to anybody about later. And it's a 10-week program with mental health counselors. And the average loss of their victims is $130,000, right? It's not 500, right? These are big numbers. They have plenty of victims that have lost millions. And in many cases, these, you may say, well, wow, if they have $1 million and they lost 100,000, is that impact as great? Well, we don't know what the individual impact is for any given family. It's relative to what their other assets are, relative to the family dynamic. So there's so much more than the numbers, and those numbers don't even speak to really how big this problem is. And the last thing I'll add is that, so there's social emotional consequences that are not represented in the numbers, and there's these big stories that are not represented in the numbers. And then the last thing I'll add is that, the retirement security of Americans across the board is at risk. And we have international crime syndicates behind a lot of the scams that are growing, and this is a problem that needs everybody's attention.
Man, this is hard to follow up with. It's hard to go last on this question. But I will add, so just kind of expanding on the FTC data, right? So $10 billion in losses last year. Worldwide reports from other organizations are estimating upwards of $1 trillion globally. So if you think about the worldwide impact and $1 trillion being lost, and you think about, well, how much is that day to day? It's like $2.7 billion a day, right? Like this is really serious stuff, and it requires a lot of players, to Christine's point, to lean in, link arms, and do something about it. And the reason why, to oversimplify, why are these numbers going up? Why is the impact so significant? Well, scammers are really smart, right? Like, they're not morons, like, clunking around trying to, like, catch you. Like, they are keeping a pulse on the way that reputable organizations are communicating with consumers, and they are replicating those communications through all sorts of different communication channels, email, phone, et cetera, all sorts of different payment methods and monetization techniques, and they're using a lot of different MOs. And all of us, every single person in this room, carries a degree of susceptibility to these scams. Nobody is inoculated from these crimes. And we have to all go about our days knowing that we are going to be exposed to these crimes. And as daunting and as insidious as these crimes can be, I am still encouraged, that increasingly we are seeing signals of organizations working together, including some of the folks on the stage here with me, who are working to thwart these bad actors and hold them accountable and prevent these crimes from happening. And so there is progress, but we have a long ways to go.
I think that's all great information. For me, it really hits home that it really isn't about the dollar amount, because $20 lost to a low-income person could mean everything to them. Whereas maybe 100, 200,000, millions, that can mean something different to someone of a different income group. But that impact of being scammed is really the bigger issue that we need to target. So with that, I want to talk a little bit more about the types of scams. So are you seeing anything specifically targeting older adults, or are you seeing any alarming trends that we should know, especially for the people in this room? Andrea, would you like to start?
Sure, I'll start, and I'll build on what my fellow panelists said here. I think what we're seeing is that as financial services and businesses of all shapes and sizes have become more advanced in their technology, so have the criminals. And so what they're starting to do is prey on the weakest link, which is human emotion. And they tend to prey on two types of emotions, one of anxiety and fear, and another of intense hope, love, and joy. They all cause a similar reaction in humans, which is an advanced state where maybe your heart might be pumping, you might feel your palms getting sweaty, but the answer is you really want to avoid either this fear or this, you want to achieve something beautiful in your life. And so what we're seeing a lot of the scammers do is prey on these human emotions. So think about things like making an imposter of a federal agent, a local police officer, a bank, and they're creating and using technology to make that imposter feel very, very real to a human. Likewise, on romance scams, they're appealing to somebody's hope for love. So these are the kinds of things that we're seeing. I think the other thing that we need to be really mindful of in the fraud category is that there is a significant rise in check fraud. And we're seeing that mail is being stolen at an alarming rate. And again, here the criminals are stepping up their game. Not only are they attacking homes' mailboxes, but they're attacking the federal post office box. They're stealing keys, so they have access to those. And so checks are also increasingly something that we need to be mindful of, and really preventing that kind of fraud as well.
Christine, would you like to share?
Sure. I don't know, when we were paying attention to the numbers earlier, if anybody noticed that miscellaneous investment schemes had a really high number. So it was 1.9, I think, billion in losses just to investment-related schemes. For those of you unfamiliar, FINRA is a financial regulator, and FINRA regulates all brokers and brokerage firms in the country. And at our very core, it's all about investor protection and market integrity. And when we have these kinds of schemes, we are eroding the confidence that we have in these US markets, and the confidence that people place in our financial institutions. And so it's very important that we're looking at those numbers. And so I know from the FINRA perspective, and I work mostly with the FINRA Investor Education Foundation, which is a subsidiary, we're seeing a rise in crypto investment schemes, and they tend to involve, I think in the past we could define different types of schemes very clearly, and the lines are blurred. And so you're seeing crypto investment schemes that may start as a relationship or a friendship, just simply a friendship. And it may be someone who convinces you that they've made wealth through crypto trading. They can teach you. So it's not a traditional romance scam in that point. They're not trying to say, oh, they have an emergency and they need a transfer of funds. They're saying, oh, well, this is your money. I mean, I made this stuff on the side, but if you want, I can teach you. And you open a platform, you put funds or crypto in a platform, and they teach you how to trade, and it looks like you're getting all these gains. And ultimately, the scammers are already controlling the platform. It's all been spoofed. and they're taking millions from people. And so this is very alarming. And we're also certainly seeing the imposter schemes that everybody's seeing across the board. But government imposter schemes are very high. And we recently implemented an experiment with Rush University Medical Center where we experimented with vulnerability to a government imposter scheme that we devised, shall I say. And there was no personal information taken, but we wanted to look at vulnerability factors for this longitudinal study. And we did find that, obviously financial literacy matters, scam awareness mattered, but cognition really played a role as well in vulnerability to government imposter schemes. And that's an area that our older population, the government imposter scheme tends to be, have a really strong pull.
Abigail?
Yeah, so when we're looking at trends in scams, just to kind of set some context, when we're talking about impersonation scams, those scams where bad actors are pretending to be Amazon. Anybody here get a text saying, it's Amazon needing to confirm your order, right? It's not. The good news is that when you're shopping on Amazon, you are safe. Okay? These crimes are happening off of our store, and because of that, there are so many crimes that are happening that we don't have line of sight into because they are not happening within our purview. And so we rely very heavily on self-reports from our customers, and you can report a scam on Amazon.com/report-a-scam. Amazon.com/report-a-scam, just a plug. And in those reports, we will we apply machine learning. We look at the trends in terms of what are some of the MOs, what are the communication methods, what are the monetization techniques. And I'm really proud to say that Amazon in the last 6 months has been much more public with the trends that we are seeing through these reports, through scam trends alerts. And we are sharing that out on a more regular basis with the public so that we can try to get closer and closer to real-time alerts. Annual reports are awesome, they're super useful, but if you're in that moment of evaluating whether a communication is a scam, you're not gonna check an annual report. We need to get more timely alerts to consumers. So I'll get off my soapbox and give you a little bit more of a click into some of the trends we've seen. Most recently, we continue to see a prevalence of order confirmation scams. So what do these look like? I'm sure many of you have gotten some version of this, but it's somebody sending you an email saying, we'd like to confirm your order for the cell phone that you purchased for $1,000. Huh, I didn't order a cell phone, right? Okay, if you have any questions, call our toll-free number, ... All right, let me call them. Okay, pick up phone, get a real human. Ha-ha, my white horse is here.
Now you know it's a fraud.
Exactly. And you're like, oh, they'll solve it. Turns out it's a scammer, right? And you tell them the situation, and they're like, oh yeah, no, we'll get this all cleared up. And through a series of interactions that you're having with them, they have stolen your information, and they will monetize that as much as they can, right? And so that is a trend that we're seeing. Everyone should be sort of on alert when you're seeing sort of this unsolicited order confirmation scams. But we've also seen others of subscription renewal scams. We've also seen PDF scams recently, where you're getting an email that has a PDF attachment to it, and you click on it, and then you got malware going on. And so we continue to share some of those schemes. Now, that's not necessarily unique to any one population. That's sort of a blanket customer experience through our self-reporting tool. But those are some of the prevalent scams that are prevalent because they're continuing to work.
That's great. well, I don't want this to feel like this is all doom and gloom kind of a situation. There are methods that we can do to protect ourselves, protect our clients, protect our customers. So I'm actually going to reverse the order, go back to Abigail, since you were talking
great.
a little bit, not to put you on the spot, but just tell us a little bit about what Amazon is doing to address this issue.
We have over 10,000 people around the world who are protecting our customers from scams and fraud on our store. So it's like a big team. And we have within that network expert investigators who are pursuing bad actors, working really closely with law enforcement. We have machine learning scientists, software developers who are protecting through sort of signals and controls on our store and in accounts. And then you have folks who are out there educating, communicating with our customers, ensuring that folks know the trends, like I was saying earlier, and sort of are reminded of those tips and best practices. In addition to those things, which are, in a lot of ways, important, but somewhat table stakes. In order for us to really make a difference, Amazon has come out recently to say we are doubling down on this spirit of collaboration. Like, we have to work together. And we need to find ways to share information, to help consumers get support when they need it most. And that cannot be done by Amazon alone. And we have some early indicators of some of the power of that success. Our investigative team worked really closely last year with Microsoft, for instance, and the Central Bureau of Investigation in India. And that investigation led in the raid of over 70 fraudulent call centers. And shutting those bad actors down. Now, we might not have had that same success had we gone at that alone. We might not have been able to grab the attention of CBI and been able to understand sort of the expansive network of bad actors that existed. We're talking with the Global Cyber Alliance of developing a Gen Z-focused toolkit. You saw the trend on the increasing susceptibility of young people to these scams, to really educate these different audiences differently. Gen Z is going to want to consume information differently than older populations, and that's okay, but we need to come up with the tools together to reach those audiences. And so we are continuing to do that. Yes, we're shutting down 40,000 fraudulent websites and 10,000 fraudulent phone numbers on an annual basis, and we're doing all sorts of other things to mitigate, but we are cognizant that our impact is going to be limited if we only go out there together. So sort of like a calling card to the world to say we need to work together, and I'm excited and encouraged by some of these early successes.
That's great, wonderful. Christine, would you like to share?
Sure. At FINRA and the FINRA Foundation, we really want to ground all of our outreach and in research, and all of our interventions in research. And so one of the things we've been engaging in is a lot of research into fraud and scams, vulnerability, intervention effectiveness. I mentioned that experiment earlier to look at vulnerability factors, the types of methods of the scammers and all of these things. And so we sort of circle back to research all the time. And one of the research projects I want to point out kind of speaks to this question. So a couple of years ago, we engaged in a study with the AARP looking at the cycle of financial fraud. And in this case, we were looking specifically at chronic victimization, but the model applies. We came up with a 4-part model to really what is the cycle of financial fraud, and what are those areas of intervention possibility, right? And so we looked at it in this quadrant approach, and we said, all right, well, there's vulnerability points to the individual susceptibility factors, cognition, loneliness, any number of things that fall into this individual consumer bucket. Mm-hmm. And on the other side of the consumer bucket, we look at motivations. What motivates someone to engage with the scammer, to answer the phone, to respond to the, and some of that's the emotional piece, but it might be fulfillment of something missing. In the case of a romance scam, fulfilling of the desire to feel loved. All right, so those are the consumer sides of our quadrant. But then we've got 2 others. Another one is deterring triggers. And that's where technology comes in. That's where some of the work that Amazon's doing and others. What can we do better to deter the triggers getting to the consumers to begin with? And then lastly, disrupting the ability. And I don't want to steal Andrea's thunder, so I won't talk about this one, but I will talk about an ability disruption that FINRA has put in place from the regulatory side. So FINRA believes strongly that we need to be working hand in hand with the financial services industry to protect consumers. And the industry wants to protect consumers too, across the board. I mean, you have the occasional bad apple, but that's not the story. So FINRA put into place 2 rules to try to basically disrupt the ability of someone to access their funds if a serious situation of fraud or exploitation is suspected. And so firms now have safe harbor, to withhold and pause, not withhold long-term, but pause a transaction or disbursement of funds related to a transaction if they suspect that it was the result of financial exploitation or a scam. And so that's actually been very effective for the industry to be able to say, hey, you want $40,000, let's investigate further why, and if they suspect that there's something fishy going on, they're allowed to withhold that transaction. And that gets that person out of that emotional moment, which Andrea was talking about earlier. And the other thing, we set up another rule to require firms to request a trusted contact on all accounts. And that trusted contact is an individual, it's not an emergency contact, it's not a power of attorney, it's just someone they can call if they have questions about the account or they can't reach you, and maybe you're on a cruise of a lifetime for your retirement, great, but you forgot to tell your broker and they're looking for you, and they can call and find that out. Or maybe there's something more significant going on. And so these 2 rules together are a way to disrupt ability. And we all can be working in these quadrants, and you serve different roles in your jobs. Maybe your role is more in the motivational side. How can you be working on the soft skills of the consumers you're working with? Maybe it's on the loneliness side. So we're looking at all of that. And I did, on table 44, I have a little flyer that has access to where all this research that I'm going to be talking about. So you could pick one up later if you're interested in learning more about the research.
That's great. Thank you, Christine. Andrea?
Great. This is such an important question, and at early warning, we've thought about this quite a bit, and the approach that we've taken is a multi-layered approach that spans 3 key realms. One is technology, one is education, and the other is public-private partnership. So let me give you a flavor of what we're doing in each of those areas. With respect to technology, we have developed a set of tools and technologies that span across our whole network of over 2,000 banks and credit unions. This helps early warning identify bad actors and fraudulent transactions. And we've taken it another step further this year. In the past year, we have implemented in-app notifications so that when people are using Zelle, and particularly if they're sending money to somebody they may not have sent to before, they'll get a notice in the app that says, hey, wait a minute, stop. Do you know what a sign of a scam is? And we think this is really important, just as Christine was saying, because it allows people to take a pause, and that pause is so important in so many situations. The exciting news is that in the past year alone, we sent over 700 million of those in-app notifications to consumers across the US. That is real progress and shows what we're doing. And really helps in those emotional situations. The second area is education, and I'm gonna play off a FINRA stat, which I think is just so revealing. The FINRA stat says that when people are aware of a particular fraud or scam type, they are 80% less likely to engage with that. So at Early Warning at Zelle, we thought about that. We said, how do we reach Americans? How do we get them to engage in education? Because I don't know about you, but most people don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm dying to watch some financial education. So what we did is we said, how do we create something that's very compelling? And we came up with this concept of a crime series, and we are featuring a true celebrity. So we launched a program, a mini-series called Safe Squad, starring Christina Ricci. And each episode features a particular type of scam. So to give you a sense of that, the first episode, Christina Ricci's baby brother, is being targeted by employment scam, and essentially he has this offer for a great job and he has to send money in for training. In the second episode, there is a gentleman sitting on a park bench who supposedly gets a call from a bank and is about to give his Social Security and other banking information away. The Safe Squad stops him. And in the third episode, just to give you one more sense of that, there is a small business owner who supposedly gets a call from the IRS saying she owes back taxes. And she's about to send money, and she doesn't, thanks to the Safe Squad. But this is an idea of how we can really engage with Americans and teach them about what's happening in a way that's really fun and engaging. And the third area, which is really important to us and really goes to our partnership with NCOA, is partnering with entities like NCOA to make sure that we get out tools, toolkits, and educational learning to all Americans, particularly mature Americans. And so this year, centered around World Elder Abuse Day, we're launching a series of tools and toolkits that will be distributed in over 11,000 senior centers across America.
Yeah, we're really excited. Yeah. And I think that is, well, one, we really do appreciate the partnership and we love working with you. This is our second year, so please thank Zelle. We're really excited, and Early Warning as a parent company. But yes, we do have a new campaign that's coming out, and I think that's something that's really relevant to everyone in this room that works directly with older adults and individuals with disabilities. But please be on the lookout. We will be launching that campaign in late May, and we'll be reaching out to all of you to hopefully work with us and participate in this. So I think that kind of alludes, and given that we only have about 10 minutes left, I'll combine the last two questions. But let's talk about, we talked about public-private partnership. Now let's think about how do we leverage folks in the room in a good way? How do we partner together to really get the word out there and to make sure that we're empowering and educating older adults? So I'll throw this out there, whoever wants to start.
I'll start.
Yeah, Christine didn't go first yet.
I'm in the middle. I'm like being the middle child today. And I was the youngest, so I'm used to being third. I will say one thing that you can encourage everyone, you should be doing it for yourself, doing it with your family, and doing it with the individuals you work with, is talking about fraud and scams. Talking non-judgmentally. Let's have conversations. What did you see today? What did you see today? I mean, Andrew's right. The stat, people were 80% less likely if they knew about that specific scam. But what's really encouraging is that they were 40% less likely to be victimized in a scam if they knew generally about the tactics of scammers. So even general education applied to a scam they may never have heard of can be incredibly powerful and effective. So talk about scams. And I would encourage you to set up a system where everybody gets a fraud buddy. You have a fraud buddy, I can have a fraud buddy, everybody gets a fraud buddy. And here's why. If you can encourage people to set up their fraud buddy and say, I'm always gonna call you and double check stuff, and I'll do the same for you, we benefit in three ways. One, we benefit from the collective knowledge of others. So they may have heard of that scam even if you haven't. And we've decided in advance we're gonna do this, so there's not any sort of judgment in the moment. Two, we benefit because it slows us down. Again, speed bump. Slow down, stop, get out of the emotional moment. Now I can talk to someone else about it before I react. And three, I don't know if this happens to you, but when I say something aloud, I hear different things than when I'm just thinking about it, right? So when you repeat back what someone has just said to you, what you've just read, what you're thinking, it illuminates very differently. So one of the most important things you can do is to encourage everyone to have a plan to tell someone else before they react.
I love
And it's easy to do.
Yep.
And it should be top of the list.
I get first dibs on Christine being my fraud buddy.
First, I got to binge watch this.
Like, this That's a great idea. I'll just go next. I think there's just general tips, kind of to what Christina was saying, that are really tried and true, right? Like, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. If you're feeling this like contrived sense of urgency, there's probably like no reason for it to be that urgent, right? Like, all of those things are sort of ubiquitous. With Amazon specifically, a couple of tips for folks is you can go to your Amazon account and look at your order history, as well as the message center, which is in your account, and it will log the communications that you've had with Amazon. And that is a great gut check to gauge whether a communication is authentic from Amazon, in our case. And that's not necessarily unique to Amazon. I would encourage all of us to, if you're getting sort of an inquiry from an organization or a company or a government agency, call the number on their website. Like, go to their website, look at the source, like get in there and look at the actual source of the information before you even engage in any communication. So go to the source is just really, really key. And then lastly, just another plug. We are only able to do so much off of the data that we gather through our reporting tool. It's how we keep track of the trends that we're seeing, and really encourage everyone in this room and your friends and neighbors and families to report scams on amazon.com/reportascam to us. Would really, really appreciate that. And along the way, let's just destigmatize scams altogether. And it is not something to be ashamed of. As we said in the beginning of this session, we all are susceptible to these crimes, and we all need to be comfortable with acknowledging that we have been exposed to them or we have been a victim of these crimes. And so just to kind of close with that.
Great. I'll keep it simple, and I'll just make two asks of the audience here. First and foremost, if you could help us be the equivalent of an in-app notification and serve as the person or the buddy who serves like a speed bump or a stop sign in a school zone. So if you see somebody who is acting out of fear or anxiety or acting to achieve a romance or something that just you probably know is off, ask them to talk to you. Ask them to take a moment, take a pause. That is one of the most effective ways that we can get people to avert scams. And the second is partner with us on education. Education is power. It builds confidence in all Americans and all individuals. So let's all teach each other how to recognize the sign of these criminals. We also have literature for you at table 44 if you'd like to take it. Please feel free to watch Safe Squad. Please feel free. We've done a lot of materials with NCOA and a lot of videos with financial therapists and experts. We really encourage you to arm yourself with that knowledge and share it out, and as my fellow panelists here say, to talk about it with those that you work with.
And I will shamelessly plug ncoa.org/scams. That's where all our materials are. So I forgot to get the clicker, so I will get that. But if one or two, we only have about 3 minutes left. If you want to share maybe one key takeaway that you'd like to end the conversation with, and I'm just going to run over and get the clicker so we can start this. Oh, thank you so much. As we're sharing key takeaways, please take this survey, just go on to the QR code. We want to hear your thoughts. We'd love to hear what you thought of this presentation, just so that way we can improve and also identify new ways to work together. So any volunteers want to share their key takeaway?
Well, I just like 3 key tips to watch for. One, I think watch for signs of physiological stress when you're working with people. Anxiety, fear, etc., and those emotions. Remember that a bank will never call you and ask for information. That is just not right. And for family members, it's really helpful to create a password. And this is when, sometimes in situations when an imposter is pretending to be a family member in distress, if you have that unique password that only your family knows, that's a really helpful tool as well.
Great. I will put a plug in for finrafoundation.org/fraudfighter. It's a place where you can go to learn more about what we're doing and the many partnerships we have with Cybercrime Support Network, Better Business Bureau, the Better Business Bureau, Institute for Marketplace Trust, and many other organizations, AARP, to see the types of interventions that are available for individuals. I mentioned the Romance Scam Recovery Group that we run with the Cybercrime Support Network. We intake all the time for that, and so if you are dealing with someone who has been victim of a romance scam, we encourage you to think about their mental health. And so the takeaway I'll add is this is not just a financial issue, right? This is a mental health issue. And was it yesterday was Mental Health Awareness Day, or was this week, earlier this week? This is a mental health issue as well. And we need to be paying attention to that. Our words matter, how we treat the victims matter, how we talk about fraud and I can't even use that word. Abigail, you said it so well. We got to destigmatize fraud, and we all have a role to play in that.
We're talking about days, right? I'm really excited to share that Thursday is the inaugural launch of National Scam Survivor Day. Which has just moved to resolution on the floor of the House of Representatives, which is really exciting. We've been working with the Better Business Bureau to create this public narrative around surviving scams and moving past them through all of these different dimensions. Yes, financial, yes, your personal information, but also the social and emotional impacts of these experiences. And so we are launching a day to take a beat and acknowledge this issue as a country, which is great.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. We've run out of time, but I'd love to thank you again. We really appreciate having you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.